Hi and welcome to the KSA Tech YouTube channel. In today's tutorial, we'll be covering optimizing a heavy file for printing or displaying on Moodle. We'll be using Photoshop in this tutorial, but the basic settings and processes of this tutorial can be applied to InDesign or whichever is your chosen program. The basic principle is to remove everything that isn't needed when printing or showing on screen. This will always mean that we make a copy of the file before making changes, just in case any future editing is required. Before we get into how to reduce the size of a file, I just want to quickly cover some important factors that will influence file size and overall quality of the file you produce in the end. One of the most important things to bear in mind when setting up a file in the first place is the physical size of the document. You should always set up your document to be a standard printing size, such as A1, just in case you want to print them later for your portfolio. You can choose to attempt to fit your document perfectly to the size of the screen you're showing on, but this will make printing in future very difficult and will require resizing, which will of course affect scaling on the sheet. Any resizing up or down will also negatively affect quality, so this should be avoided if at all possible. Another factor to bear in mind is the resolution of your file. 300 dpi or 300 pixels per inch is recommended. Any resolution higher than this will not lead to a better quality print or display, but will bloat your file unnecessarily. The final factor that usually makes files overly large is the preservation of layers, even when exported to PDF. You see, Adobe attempts to preserve that information in the file without warning you, just in case you want to edit it in future. But this information is useless to the printer and to the overall quality of the file, and will only serve to slow down processing and crash the printer, or make using the file on screen very slow. For this reason, I recommend exporting or saving as a JPEG, and later transforming these JPEGs into a PDF. This will keep as much of the quality information as possible, but leave behind needless information. Now, let's look at how to do this using the export as and save as function, and when it's appropriate to use one or the other. Export as can be found by clicking the File menu and going to Export and Export as. At the top right of the export window, you can select the format you want to export into. For this method, we'll be using JPEG, as it will make sure any layer information left in the file won't be included when we're trying to print or show on screen. This preview may take a long time to complete, depending on how large your file is and how much else you have open at the time. Ensure that the quality and size are set to 100%, as any change in these two values will result in a change in quality or the dimensions respectively. Click Export and it will now ask you where you wish to export your file to. Do this for each of your sheets until you have a JPEG for every sheet you want to include in your presentation or print. Save As can be found under the File Save As option. Select this option and it will ask where you want to save the file, and more importantly, what format you want it to be saved in. Click this drop down menu at the bottom of the window and select JPEG from the list. Now ensure when you hit save, you select level 12 or maximum quality on the slider that appears. This will mean no quality is lost. There are differences between these two methods though, and it's vital to understand these before you proceed to use one of them. Save As will keep the resolution and the dimensions of the file that you save. Export As will decrease the resolution but increase the dimensions to compensate. There's no difference in quality or the way these two files get handled on screen. However, Export As shouldn't be used if you're intending to print, as the alteration of dimensions of the image will mean that it has to be fit to page before printing, which will affect scale factors minutely. Therefore, if you're intending to print something that is a very particular scale, then Save As method is the only one that's recommended. If you're showing on screen, then either one can be used, but it's advisable not to use a combination of these two, as consistency will lead to a better result. So to sum up, if you're printing, you should set your file dimensions to the intended print size from the start, and make sure this is in millimeters. Set your resolution up to 300 pixels per inch. Then when exporting, click File and Save As. Now convert your individual sheets to single page PDFs using Adobe DC's Convert to PDF option. We recommend using single page files as the large format printer won't accept documents with more than one page. If you're showing on screen, you should set up your file dimensions to a standard print size such as A1. Make sure this is also in millimeters. Set your resolution to 300 pixels per inch. Then when exporting, Use File, Save As, or File, Export As. Now combine all your sheets to one PDF using Adobe DC's Combine Sheets to PDF option. Once you export to PDF, your document should be below 250 megabytes in size. If it isn't, you may need to make sure that you have followed the previous steps, or look again at the setup of your file, and at the resolution, which shouldn't be higher than 300 pixels per inch. We also wouldn't recommend using the reduce size PDF option as a shortcut, as this almost always leads to a file that doesn't look good when printed or shown on screen. So, thanks for watching this tutorial. Feel free to check out our other videos, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel to keep up to date with videos they're released. We hope to see you soon, but until then, have a good day.